Good morning, all, and welcome to SCGC Coimbatore. So, the SCG Coimbatore was organized by Prabhu Raghunathan, a solution architect who has 10 years of more than a decade of years of industry experience, and myself, Gautam Ishramurthy, who is a Sitecore lead working in RWS and have 8 years experience, and Vignesh Jyoti Kumar, who is a senior Sitecore specialist, and he has almost 8 years of experience in Sitecore and total industry experience. So we are a user group who is passionate about Sitecore and working on Sitecore. So the main motto of this group is to share the knowledge on technologies that are emerging on the Sitecore. So we have been conducting multiple sessions on multiple topics from various MVPs and other peoples who are passionate about Sitecore. And today's topic is transforming Sitecore with Next.js and building and deploying dynamic components. Session taken by Prabhu Raghunathan and Vignesh Jyoti Kumar. With no further delay, and I welcome Prabhu and Vignesh, and thanks for taking a session on this. Prabhu and Vignesh.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So today's topic, we are going to discuss about transforming.
One second.
Okay, can you go to the first slide? Yeah. So today's topic is about transforming Sitecore with Next.js. It's about building and deploying some dynamic components. That's what we are going to discuss today. And first of all, good morning, everyone. And thanks for everyone who joining this Saturday. And myself, I'm Prabhu Ranganathan. I'm working as a Sitecore architect, and I have more than 10 years of experience and more than 8 years experience in Sitecore. And along with me, I have Vignesh Jyoti Kumar, who is a Sitecore specialist, and he is also having more than 8 years experience and more than 5 years experience in Sitecore. And below our LinkedIn profiles. So in case if you want to connect with us, you can. Vignesh, can you go back a minute, please?
Sure.
Yeah. So below other LinkedIn profiles, you can find me there, Prabhu-Ranganathan, and I'm frequently writing my learnings as a blogs, which is a Medium platform. You can even find me there. It's named as Prabhu.Ranganathan. And for Vignesh, for LinkedIn handle, Vignesh-Jyoti Kumar, and blogs, Vignesh.Jyoti Kumar, about his writings and all. You can find it over there. In case of any doubts or clarification, you can reach us through LinkedIn. We are glad to communicate with you.
Yep.
So as mentioned, today's topic is all about Sitecore transformation toward the Next.js platform, right? So right now, most of the technology platforms are going to headless. Since it has am I audible, Vignesh?
No, you are breaking, Prabhu.
Yeah, you breaking in between. Now you are audible.
Okay. I think some network connectivity issue from my end. Give me a minute.
Give us a couple of seconds. Prabhu is joining back. Hi, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I think you're on mute.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Sorry for my network is very bad. I'm sorry about that. So let's continue.
Yeah.
Today's topic is what I was telling is like even the complete technology platform is going through headless, and even Sitecore is also mainly started focusing on some headless development paths, right? And so today's main agenda is all about headless and what are the best way to doing the headless integrations along with Sitecore platform, and what are the best um, technologies that Sitecore provides. So we'll discuss about that. Just a basic informations will discuss about that, and then we'll show you a small demo on how to creating a small component using the creating a headless component in Sitecore, and how we are deploying that in Sitecore. So there's those kind of basic component creations will see that as that in a demo part. And the main agenda today is we'll see what is headless and why headless is required, and what are the headless integration modes are available, and so some basic information about JSS and the Next.js, which is the most happening JavaScript framework, and the application overview when we started creating some Next.js application. So how the application should be. So that application overview will take a look at that, and so how the placeholder is playing main important role in communicating with the Sitecore and and the application, the rendering host application that you are creating, and the component overview, some basic uh, principles that we used to follow when we are creating components in the Next.js, and what are the deployment options are available when we are creating a Next.js application. So what are the options are available to deploying that, and a small demo. So these are all things we are going to cover today. So the first thing is, what is headless? So as you all know mainly, but I just wanted to give you an oversight, simple idea about that. Those who are not completely and completely not understanding about that, and I would like to give a small idea about and small insights on that. What is headless and all? So headless is right now how we are developing an application, even the CMS development or any content based website development that we are doing it. So what we are doing is we are putting the content in one area, and on top of it we are doing a presentation, and presenting that into your website. That's how we are doing it. And in case that needs to be replicated in some other way, what we are doing is we are again recreating the same, and for example, for a website we are doing the same content. On top of that we are putting presentation. In case of it mobile development, we are doing the same. We are putting the content, and top of that we are creating mobile applications. That's how the initial development applications and all going on. So when coming into the headless part, it's completely decoupled, right? So the content is centrally managed, and you can create the applications on top of it. So it's completely decoupled. So the content layer is separated from the presentation layer. So it's not depends on one another. So it's a main advantage, right? So content is anywhere, and it is providing an API to access the content. And through presentation, you can use any platform, either it be a website or a mobile application or IoT device or any other wearable devices that you just wanted to integrate that into your content. What you could do is you can just call an API will provide all the necessary information for how the format should be in your application. Either it would be website would expect in a different format, and some wearable devices would expect in a different format. So you just call the API and get the content and displaying it in the respective device channels. So this is the main advantage that we would like to go with headless. Headless in the sense there is no presentation bind to the application. So it's completely decoupled. And okay, so I understand the headless, and why headless? So as I mentioned earlier, content is actually separated from the presentation. Is a huge advantage, right? You don't need to reread the contents again and again. So once the content is centrally managed, and you can it has an API to access the content, so you can create any application that you want on top of it. That is the main advantage. You just want to go to headless. So that's why contents can be easily distributed to multiple channels, right? So since it's centrally manageable, you can use that content across any channels, and it has a flexibility, right? So you don't need to depends on the front end and back end. In case I have a front end design and back end design coupled, in case any changes in front end, I have to adjust the back end for that as well, right? So that is not required here. So since the content is completely independent, and the way you are querying that from front end, you can change it accordingly. So it has a lot of flexibility in the front end part and as back end part, and faster content updates, because it's not depends on each other. You can update the content seamlessly. There is no dependency on any front-end templates. As I mentioned earlier, there is no dependency on front-end templates. Based on that, we need to adjust that, and all is not required here. So it's very changing the content updates. It's very much faster, and collaboration is very key part in when we are going with headless CMS, because developers can focus on building the front end, while content creators can work independently on content creation and management. So the marketers have their own ideologies in their mind, right? So what are the contents they have to put? They can put that in the content management part, and since the front end is completely independent, so we can technology purpose, like developers can focus on creating only the front end part, and it's obviously the scalability is another main advantage here, because it has completely decoupled. You can if there is a lot of traffic, you can increase the front end application. If there is a lot of authoring, you can increase the content portion. So based on that, you can easily scale your servers and application. So the next part is coming to Sitecore Headless. So we saw what is headless and why headless. Okay, so we understood somehow what is in headless and why headless. Then okay, how Sitecore is supporting headless. So Sitecore actually doing this headless part there are two different way you can integrate the headless application. So first thing, main thing we have to focus on this is even I don't have any Sitecore knowledge. I mean, even any developer who doesn't have any Sitecore knowledge, but they have a front end application skills, who can start creating the application. So that is a main advantage when we are coming into the Sitecore headless part. In case I am well knowledge in React or Angular or Next.js or Vue.js, so they can start creating the applications in front end, and lately they can integrate that with the Sitecore part. So that is one key advantage Sitecore headless provides. So how it is possible when we are doing a Sitecore headless part? The creation of front end applications, Sitecore offers the two different SDKs. One is Sitecore ASP.NET Rendering SDK, and another one is Sitecore JavaScript Rendering SDKs. So when we are going with the Sitecore ASP.NET Rendering SDK, there are the application using this SDKs is, and whatever application that you are going to create is called rendering host application, and that rendering host application is actually sits in between the user and the CD server. I assume that the CD server currently is called as a live server. Whatever the content that you're seeing in CD, that is called the actual website, right? So instead of that, we are putting that is in between the rendering host application, and that application is actually created using these SDKs. Either it would be ASP.NET rendering SDK or Sitecore JavaScript rendering SDK. So in both the way, you can create that. And so for this, whatever the SDKs I'm using it, how can I access the content from Sitecore? So that is happening through layout service. Sitecore is actually enabling the layout service that is called Sitecore Headless Services, and through that headless services, you can actually get the content and render that into your respective application. So Sitecore Headless Service is a kind of a package. Sitecore is providing it. In case if you have an on-prem Sitecore, you can download that as a package, Sitecore package, and you can install it through the normal installation process that your any package you're installing it. So through the way, even you can do it when you are having an on-prem environment. In case if you have a cloud installation, so you have a cloud Sitecore installation, Sitecore also provides a web deploy package. Using the Sitecore Azure toolkit, you can go ahead and do it. And when you are having the Sitecore in Docker container, Docker files are there. Sitecore is providing that as well. There's a Docker files. You can using that you can go ahead and deploy the headless services. There are three different ways for three different hosting technology. You can utilize all these three and install the headless services. So that is the one key factor Sitecore Headless provides. And there are two different rendering engines. One is Node.js rendering and HTTP rendering engine. So when we are going with the Node.js rendering engine, it is actually enabled by default. When you have a Sitecore headless service, I think this Node.js rendering engine is enabled by default. So using this and with the help of Sitecore JSs, you can go ahead and create any React applications and Angular or Vue.js application. You can, with the help of JSs, you can create it and you can host that in the Node.js rendering engine. So that application is called as rendering host application. And for this, you need to have a separate Node server in order to compile your rendering host application. That you have to keep that in your mind. And the second one is HTTP rendering engine, which is the most recent engine that Sitecore released it. After Sitecore 9.1.1 or later, you can go ahead and use this. And this engine is when comparing with Node.js rendering engine, this HTTP rendering engine is slightly faster and lightweight. And in case if you're going with JSS for Next.js, this HTTP rendering engine is configured by default. So you can opting with Next.js and creating a rendering host applications. It obviously is a better choice that you go ahead and using the HTTP rendering engine. And even for Sitecore ASP.NET rendering SDKs, support the HTTP rendering engine, but you have to do some basic configuration in order to achieve that. So there are common integration modes are available in Headless, not only in Sitecore. There are any platform which supports Sitecore, which supports Headless. It has some common integration modes. One is decoupled. So decoupled in the sense front end and back ends are completely separated. The front end actually fetches the content from the back end through APIs. As I mentioned earlier, the front end is actually trying to get the content from back end through APIs. So it's completely independent. So there is no dependency in between front and back end. That kind of CMS development is called decoupled mode. Then another one is fully headless. It's almost similar to the decoupled, but fully headless mode completely separate from the front and back end. The same. There is no changes on that, but the front end uses APIs to retrieve the content. But unlike decoupled, the presentation layer is not depends on the backend part. So backend is not completely depends on the presentation logic. In case if you are using before Sitecore 9 and all, there is a option to get the content. There is a OData item API. Through that, you can get the content right. So in that scenario, you in case if you use that API, you even noticed that. So the content with the presentation logic should be there. So even when we are going with the fully headless, even that presentation is not required. Only we can grab the content. With that content, you can additionally put the presentation that you wanted. And another mode is hybrid. Hybrid is in the transition period, we mostly go with the hybrid, I believe, because when we have a Sitecore traditional CMS sites are present, and some clients are asking to move some pages to be in headless and some pages still to be in traditional. I mean, still using the old one. It's a kind of a transition part. We used to have this kind of a scenario. Only few pages have fully headless, and some pages still using the traditional CMS way. So this is called hybrid. And SSG and SSR is a kind of a site generation on compile time and build time. So static site generation is the HTML generates at build time, so which can be served statically to the users. The front end is already rendered and cached. So and then this is actually improves the loading of the website, and it has a improved SEO. And server side rendering is actually rendering the content, and it actually compiles the HTML files before delivering to the user. So this can provide the better performance and SEO compared to the client side rendering. But this server side rendering is actually in the real time, it actually get the content from the server through APIs. And another one is Jamstack. So it's also the same one, like it actually having the JavaScript and APIs and markup. So it is it's also API driven development, and sorry, question. Okay. It actually utilizing the SSD and SSR part for better performance. But Jamstack is a different infrastructure platform. This is also coming under the part of Headless. So Next.js and JSS. So when we want to implement a headless option in Sitecore, Sitecore JS is obviously a single point of choice we used to opt with, and through Sitecore JS, we used to create applications with the help of that. That's how it is designed. So what is JSS in a brief? So it's actually a JavaScript framework. Sitecore by default it is giving, and so it enables building modern web applications with JavaScript frameworks like React, Angular, Vue, and Next.js. It actually helps us to integrate the Sitecore backend. So we are creating a Sitecore front end application with the help of any JavaScript frameworks, and we just want to gather the content, grab the content from the backend with the help of JSS. That's how it designed, and it actually supports completely headless and decoupled architecture. So it act the so it getting the content from the Sitecore's content tree. That is the main motto of this JSS. So we have a list of contents created in the Sitecore content tree, and there are multiple way. It actually supports the API first approach, right? So in that manner, it helps us to get the content from the content tree, whatever the content is created under the Sitecore content tree. It also helps to integrate the personalization, A/B testing, preview, and workflow features. That we keep that in our mind, because when we are creating application, the first thing comes into our mind is when we are doing a Sitecore based application without headless, it by default we have a personalization or A/B testing or workflow is possible. But when we have started creating the headless application, so customer is asking to create the personalization or any workflow feature. Would that be possible? That is a main question will come into our mind, but that supports. And so when we are doing the content-rich digital experience application, I think you would go with a Sitecore JSS, because it's content is centrally managed in Sitecore content tree, and through JSS you can create a website or any front-end application that is possible. And what is Next.js? So, Next.js is also a open source JavaScript framework. It actually built on React. On top of that, it has the features called server-side rendering and static site generation, which actually it has four different features, something like this: SSR and SSD, ISR, and client-side rendering CSR. But SSR and SSD, even ISR is is the main key feature in Next.js, it gives the enormous performance of any website. So when you start creating application with the help of SSG and SSR, the performance and SEO is you can deliberately see that the performance got improved on that. So that is why we would like to go with Next.js. In case you know React application, you know React.js well, and you just want to create a headless application, what you can do is you can go with the Next.js since it's already built on React. On top of that, it has some salient features, something like this. And so, as I mentioned, SSR and SSD, it also handles the routing, and there is another application code splitting feature. That is also the main reason we would like to go with the Next.js. So these are the basic introduction about JSS and Next.js. So the application development is actually called rendering host application. That application, when we are creating with any JavaScript framework, or either it would be React or Angular or Vue, but this is completely focusing on Next.js. So when we are creating a Next.js application, we have to use the JSS framework, and JSS framework is actually helps to get the content from the Sitecore backend through API. So this is the way we are going to create any application when we go with the Next.js. Next slide, please. Okay. So the application overview. So when I decided to create a Next.js application for Sitecore, it actually have a two different way we can create the application. One is create a component with code first workflow and create a component with Sitecore first workflow. So what is the difference in between that? The same one that earlier when we are having a Sitecore development part, we have the same, right? Test-driven development and data-driven development. So there's something same like this. We have a code first approach and Sitecore first approach. The code first approach is actually you started creating the application in Next.js. So I'm a front-end developer. I don't have much knowledge on Sitecore, but I just want to create the application. I just wanted to start creating the application. That in that scenario, you have to go with the code first workflow. In that scenario, you create all the component first. For example, you want to create an header component. You just start creating that header component you're creating in Next.js, and what are the data source you wanted, you just mocking that. You put the mock data and utilizing that and creating the application. Something like that, you creating the application first, and then you're connecting that with the Sitecore backend. This is called code first approach. Another one is Sitecore first approach. Sitecore first approach, you create a component first. I mean, I am creating this renderings. So what are header? If in case I just want to create the header component, I'm just creating that as a rendering in the Sitecore first, and then so am I audible?
Yeah, but we are hearing echo.
Okay.
No,
That scenario. Hello.
yeah, now you are good.
Okay. So in that scenario, we have to go with the Sitecore workflow. And okay, so I just fixed that. So what kind of approach I have to follow? I fixed that. What is the next step should be? The next steps are you need to create the Next.js application, right? So for that, you have to install the JSS. That is the first part. So for that, you have to have a command called npm install Sitecore JSS / Sitecore JSS / CLI. This actually creates installs the JSS framework in your machine. In case if you are working on your local sandbox and you want to install the JSS, you have to run this command in order to install the JSS. And then you have to create the Next.js application. In case if you are using VS Code editor, what you have to do is you have to run this JSS create command and your Next.js app name and Next.js. It actually creates the basic scaffolding Next.js application, and you have to choose which kind of mode you are going to develop. One is disconnected mode and another one is connected mode. So disconnected mode is actually for when you're going with the code first workflow. You can even go with the disconnected approach because it's not connected to the Sitecore. You're just creating all your application first and then you're connecting back it. In the connected mode, you are frequently connected with your Sitecore backend and even getting all the data in the real time. And based on that, you are creating a component. So for the disconnected mode, just run the command JSS start will help to run that. And in order to go to the connected mode, you have to follow JSS start connected. And when you're doing it, you have to make sure you install your Sitecore JavaScript services I have mentioned earlier. You have to install that in your Sitecore through CM server. You have to do it, and then there is a API key you have to generate it, and that when we're running a JSS setup, you have to mention the API key and all those configurations. You have to deploy it, and then you have to build it, and you have to start creating your application. So this is the basic information you have to keep in your mind when you start creating your application. You have to decide whether you're going with a code plus or Sitecore fast, and then connected or disconnected, and on what are the best ways to do it. These things you have to keep in your mind. Go to the next slide. Yeah. So the placeholders is also same as we used in Sitecore earlier. The same way we had to use the placeholders over here as well. But the only key point is you have to mention the placeholder in your layout service. That is very important. So that when we are querying through API, that what are the items that what are the renderings you are utilizing through that placeholder will be included in your response. Otherwise, those things will not be included. Other than that, rest of the process same in the placeholders. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So the component overview. For example, when you start creating your application in Next.js, you have to just to follow some design principles in your which helps us to maintain the flexibility and extensibility. Because of that, you need to make sure how your componentization is created in your Next.js application. For example, so in the right section, I showed it right. For example, you are creating a header component, put the folder name called header. Under that, the component is TSX and relevant CSS files and any assets inside that and everything you have to combine in a single folder. And there if you mention that and start creating application. So it's the extensibility is very much easier and maintenance will be very easy. So you need to make sure when we are doing any componentization, you have to. I think almost all the React application or Next.js application using the same componentization formula. You have to apply it when you are even using when we are creating an application for Sitecore as well. So coming to the deployment option. So once you create the rendering host application and you have to deploy it, right? So you can deploy that in either Nginx and IAS, that is called traditional web hosting. You can even go with that, or even the container hosting is also possible through Docker or something. And in cloud platform, there are AWS and Azure and Google Clouds are supporting in some manner. You have to explore a little bit, not directly supporting it, but through some services, AWS and Azure are supporting it. So you have to explore it a while, and then you can even hosting over there is possible. And most approached way to deploy that your running host application is serverless platform hosting, which is hosting in Vercel. That is a recommended one by Sitecore. Out of the box, it is even the Next.js is out of the box supporting that feature. So hosting your Next.js application in Vercel platform is pretty much easier than comparing with other deployment options. Go to the next slide. Yeah. So this is a sample headless architecture in case if you create the headless application where it actually to be presented. For example, on top first you can see there is a mobile app or website or ARV or any IoT device is actually hitting your rendering host application. That is the entrance of any application. So there you return your Next.js application. So when request comes to your Next.js application, that is called rendering host application, you are actually directing to load balancer, and it actually go to your content delivery. So you have to keep that in your mind. It's not going to CM server. It is actually going to the CD server, and there you need to make sure you have enabled your headless services. Otherwise, the API will not provide any response back to you. And this content delivery actually getting the content from CM server through publishing. That is actually traditional approach. And in future, even if you're going with experience agent, or you can even omit the content delivery. Instead of that, you can replace that with your experience age, and rest of the pros are the same. Go to the next slide. Yeah. So in case if you need any additional information, you can go with my Medium my blog post. I have written few informations about the Next.js development. I have written few blogs, and even Vignesh has written some detailed information about the placeholders and how to get started with your Next.js application, and some Sitecore deployment options he had tried. So you can even explore there, and you can see what any clarification you need. So to demo time, I think I have taken more time because due to some network connection. I'm sorry, Vignesh, on that. You can demo. You can go ahead and take it.
It's okay, Prabhu. I'm sharing my screen. Are you able to see my VS Code?
Yes, Vignesh.
So, so as part of the Sitecore Headless and then Sitecore Headless development, we need some basic things. So first is Sitecore Headless rendering SDK. So which you can find from Sitecore website. Sitecore Headless rendering download. You can just go to the download pages of the Sitecore. You can just get it based on the Sitecore version. You have to download that first one, and then the second step is you have to create you have to install the Node.js. So currently I'm using a Node.js version 18.16.0. You can use that also. So this is the headless rendering based on the Sitecore version which you have. Like I have 10.2, so I'm currently using a Sitecore headless rendering 20.0.2, this version. So based on the Sitecore version, maybe you can use this Sitecore headless rendering. So after that, once you download that, you have to install that package in the Sitecore. Okay, because that is a basic. Because once you install the package, the Sitecore headless rendering, you would see two extra options. One is called Sitecore headless tenant folder, and then headless tenant. So based on this template only, we will need to create the tenants, because this is traditional tenant approach which we use for MVC applications like that. But for headless, we need to use a headless tenant, because that is separated. All the templates and then basic renderings, everything will be varied. So currently I have created one tenant called VG company, and then I have two sites in it, demo and then Maverick. So when you click the tenant as like same as the traditional way of SXA. You will see that headless site. There you will see the site. So once the site is being created, basically this home, media, data, and then presentation settings, everything will come up. So under the home is a page, base page. You can create the, if you want to create the new page, you can just click uproot and then create the new page. Demo page, if you just create it, the page will get created. Okay. So this is the way. I mean, this is from the Sitecore side. First thing we have to create. Do the base work, and then we have to create an application, right? So that is what is the first step is. You once the Node.js being installed, you have to give the command called npx. Npx. I mean, before that, there is one command as Prabhu shared, right? That is called, we need to install the Sitecore CLI version, JSS version. JSS on the, Sitecore JSS in the our machine actually. Just give me a second. So for that, we have some. I'm just copying from Notepad. So this is basically what it does is it will install the Sitecore JSS CLI command line interface. It will get downloaded and then it will get installed globally. Okay. So once this is done, we will be able to create our applications. For example, to create that, we have a command called npx create Sitecore JSS at the version 20 and then Next.js. This command will get very before, after the version 20, it will be this like this. And then 19, and then before earlier versions, that will be different. I think that is npm install Sitecore and then giving the name of the application. But that is available in Sitecore documentation. We can check, we will get more clarity on that. So if I done that, it will start creating the application. It will ask basic things like application name and then the path. Yeah. I mean, it does have. Oh, sorry. I mean, already I have downloaded, right? I need to be in different. Yeah, it lasts this basic kind of a questions. That is, I have added in my blog post. I will share you. Maybe you can just check out there. So once this thing is, that application is being created, you would see if you open VS Code, you will see all this kind of files, basically files. So the Sitecore and then node modules and then data and then VS Code and all the files are available. I'll tell you what it is and then what is each. Node modules is like every front-end developer knows about that, right? So all the node application which has this node modules, whatever the node libraries we created, it will get into it. And then data is a important folder for disconnected mode. There is a Sitecore connect, JSS start site connected mode and then disconnected mode as Prabhu told, right? So we can mark the data and then we'll create a component without the Sitecore, I mean the code first approach. We can mark the data here and then we'll create the components and then we will work on that. Laterly, if we connect with Sitecore, we'll use the live data and then we'll connect it. Also, there is one more library is available for disconnected mode that is called Storybook. So the Storybook is interesting thing. We'll use it for like mocking the data and then creating a component exactly what we want. So the front-end developer does not rely on Sitecore people or Sitecore environments. If they would install this one in the project, and then it will be really helpful for them to create that application. I mean the components. Currently, we are using it in our live projects, so this is beneficial. Just giving a heads up on this. And then Sitecore, there is a config. So this is a basic thing. So the Sitecore config, it does has the site name, and then it will site host name and everything. So when there is a lot of comments, right, in the slide, that is one of comment is Sitecore JSS setup. So when you give the JSS setup, it'll ask a couple of questions like what is the site name, and then like path of the folders, I mean site folder, everything. So that will get updated here. I mean that will get overwritten here. So so this is basic thing for connecting with the Sitecore. Currently, I'm gonna give a demo on the Sitecore connected mode. Okay, and then source. Source is a component folder. So in the Next.js, because Next.js is framework based on the React, right? React is all the componentations. Everything we called it as a componentation architecture. So in the componentation architecture, we create all the controls, we call it as, right, that we create as a components, even like logos, the login icons, hero images, everything we create as a component for reusing in multiple bases. So this is how the components are created. I mean, the components, once the component is created, that will be available inside this components folder. And then assets. Assets basically nothing but like it holds the styles, and then some other libraries maintain as one of the library we are using for it, for a forms, form handling and all. So that styles, everything will be in the assets folder. And then library. So library is all the parents library of when you install the node modules, right, that parent libraries will get into this libraries folder. Even though if you want, we'll create our own library and then we can use it. And then pages. So this is where the routing is happening, right? So for example, we have a home page and then we have a demo page. But if you see in the application, we are not mentioned any pages. So the pages are being dynamically generated, and then the components are integrated into this thing. So that is path.tsx is handling that one. Okay. I have in my blogs, you can see that all the detailed explanation of this one. And then nothing but, and then layout. Layout is very, very important. The component is a very, very base component for all the all the componentations. So here we create our custom placeholders. I'll tell you where we need to create it. And then this environment file is nothing but like a web.config, right? So like the same configuration file, it only uses while it is developing our applications. So the public URL is what is a live URL. Currently we are running our application on localhost, and then this JSS editing secret. This is for our experience editor, and then API key. Sitecore API key we have to create it from the Sitecore. I'll tell you where to create it, and then API host. The Sitecore API host is nothing but our Sitecore environment. And then what is a method of getting the data? It's kind of a REST. It's a basic thing. So I'll tell you. So this is my Sitecore environment. So when you go to system settings, there will be a services folder. Once, I mean, this API key folder, I mean, the template, when you install the Sitecore headless rendering, right? After that, it will get appear. Once this appears, when you click right click, and then you can create your own API keys. So currently, the API key is being created. That item ID is a key for that API. Your application. We need to, that is mentioned in the environment file here. Okay. And then another thing is setting up Sitecore items. In the settings, if you see, there are a lot of things we need to configure. I mean, the app name is nothing but our site name, and then our site name and this app name should be matched. Otherwise, site won't get loaded. The Maverick config, if you see, the site name will be as like our app name. So it should both get matched. And then this will automatically some configuration. Yeah. Our rendering engine is HTTP rendering engine. After 9.1.1, we are using a new rendering engine, HTTP. But by default, when you create an application, right? Creating a site, right? It will be Node.js. We have to change it to HTTP, and then this server-side rendering engine endpoint, we have to make it to localhost because we are running our site in a local. So when you point to production, we have to change that domain on this. In this place, and then deployment secret, and then this deployment secret should be matched in the JS setting secret. Both should be matched. So this is the basic things of setting up a site, and then creating a placeholder is another thing. So let me show you how to create a placeholder. So right click in the layout, there is a placeholder settings. Inside the project, you have to create a placeholder. I'm just creating a demo placeholder. So demo placeholder has been added. After that, in the placeholder settings slide, right? Prabhu mentioned that we need to add into the site basic layout, right? So that is we are going to do it now. In the app route, this is a base template for all the pages in the site. Okay. Standard settings, values, and then click. So in this edit. I'm adding my placeholder here. My system is taking some time. Please bear with me. Yep. Once the placeholder has been created, we need to select that, and then we have to give the placeholder key. This is demo. Just giving some random names. Okay. Once we selected that placeholder has been added into the base layout. Okay. And then I'm going to create one rendering now. So here I'll create as a JSON rendering. Because JSON rendering, why we are creating a JSON rendering is from the layout services to the rendering engine to our application, the data is being transported as a JSON format. So in that way only that Sitecore Headless rendering is transporting our data to the front-end layer, I mean the presentation layer. So for that purpose only we are just creating as a JSON rendering. I'm just giving a demo today as a rendering name. And then I need to add that allowed controls in that placeholder. Right. It's been added. So in that page, I have a demo page. So I'm gonna add my rendering in this page. I need to, I'm putting my new rendering into the placeholder which I have created. And then I'm setting up a data source. For this one, I have already have some having some sample data. Yeah. Okay. So we are set from the Sitecore side, but if you see, I don't have any component I didn't create it from the application side. So I need to create that. For that, there is one command called JSS scaffold, which Prabhu told, right? So first one is the folder name, JSS scaffold, demo, NOV4 / and then the rendering we created here, right? In the Sitecore, the name of the component also should match. Otherwise, the application will not get, it will not get recognized, or it doesn't understand what is that. So you see here, the component name is demo today. I need to create the component exactly same as the rendering which I created. So I'm gonna create it now. Yeah, once the component is created, it will be under the components, demo November, and then demo today. So here, if you see that basic heading, everything will come up. So I have two fields, heading and then description. So I'm gonna add one more field here for description, and then the field name, field as a field string. So the field is coming from the Sitecore JSS thing, and then we'll render that data from Sitecore using this property. So I just created a component. I'm gonna run and then show you my component and then real-time data from Sitecore. Remember, right? I have added my rendering in the demo page. Please bear with me. Almost I completed. You see, right? The component is not coming up. I think I have to publish it. Where is it now? Yeah, some demo component is coming. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's having some technical problems. So I have created some component already, which is called demo. I'll try to add one more field in this. I can show you how does it will get react. Yeah, I'm having some technical issues. So this is the way we have to create the components, basic configurations. I mean, if you need more detailed thing, you can just refer this blogs. One of the blogs, you will get more idea about that. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Prabhu and Vignesh, for your sharing your thoughts. And so, if anyone has a queries, please put your own chat. I believe no has a question. So
Yeah, so we need to publish the renderings, rendering, and then other items also. If we pointed it to web database, if we point it as a master database, we don't need to, publish. It will directly get reflected. That settings is in the under that Sitecore config inside the config folder, right? I showed that it is there. Did I answer your question? Anybody has any other questions?
so he said,
Yeah, I think I did some JSS setup right in between. I think it has been crashed my existing setup. That's why it's not coming up. I mean, I need to check why it is not coming. Thank you, Aurora.
all right. Yeah, I think I don't have any other questions. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining the sessions. And if you do have any further questions, as you know, you can contact with Vignesh or Prabhu Ranganathan for further clarifications. They may able to get you clarified. So reach them through LinkedIn. So they have active on LinkedIn. And thanks Vignesh and Prabhu for taking the sessions and sharing your knowledge on the in-depth knowledge on the Sitecore Next.js and the architecture. Thanks everyone for joining on the weekends.
Thank you, Gautam, for the opportunity.
Thanks all.
Thanks everyone who joined us. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.